Okay, good evening, dear hearts. This is another Tuesday edition of the Inner Dance Show where we are supporting a return to sacred flow. And this evening, I have the absolute pleasure of inviting Ali Taylor, the founder of Rainbow Warrior Wellbeing, to the show. And I've met Ali a couple of times now in the local area of Dundee, and she's just a ray of sunshine. And we attended a session on lucid dreaming, and we got to spend some time together. And I have to say, Ali, it felt like I'd known you from another lifetime. There was just some real resonance between us.
There
But
was,
anyway,
yeah.
yeah. So this is just a real joy for me to spend a little bit more time with you in this way and to get to know all about the amazing healing work that you're supporting.
Mm.
So I'm just going to read the list of some of the things that you do, just that people can get a flavor of like the many offerings and talents that you have. But you're a senior yoga teacher, you are a shamanic sound and energy healer, a Reiki master teacher, and spiritual life coach, to name a few. So welcome, Ali. How are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you. And equally, yeah, I also felt a lovely connection with yourself when we met. And I'm just delighted to be here. And thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I couldn't think of anyone better to come on and to sort of hold space and help us to explore the medicine of really of sound healing.
Mm.
And I'm actually quite new to this. I've been working with inner dance energy for a couple of years now, so I still feel very much like a baby, and I've got a baby mind when it comes to all of these things. So some of the questions I might ask might sound simple, but it's really helpful to sort of break things down so that
Mm.
people who might be tuning in, this might be their very first time considering considering the idea of sound medicine and healing.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if maybe you could just, well, maybe describe what it is that you do, and just give us a background to it, and well, let's go with your flow with this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And yeah, it's always good to adopt a beginner's mind, isn't it? Even when we're experienced, because we're
Yeah.
always learning, aren't we? So yeah, that's a good way to put it. Um, and so when I was thinking about tonight, I was realizing actually that how blessed I was to grow up surrounded by music.
Mm.
My kind of very early influences, my dad loved rock guitar music, so from a young age I was exposed to the music of the 50s and the 60s. And my dad was an avid Shadows fan, and he had every single LP that they ever made. Um, and and that was a big influence on me. Music has always been and still is a big part of my life, and I wouldn't want to live in a world without music. But also my grandfather, he introduced me to classical music, and it's like,
Right.
wow, that had such an impact on me in terms of like being able to convey through music alone emotions or landscapes or seascapes. And the same with opera, that ability to feel, loss and tragedy in a language I didn't even understand, but the emotions somehow
Yeah.
came through. And so that was kind of my early grounding in music. Somehow, it just felt like part of my soul, even although I didn't really understand these concepts at that age.
Uh,
Um, and
well, what I'm hearing, Ali, is that you were discovering a language, weren't you? Because when we're little, we don't have the words for those internal, powerful experiences. But I'm hearing you say that actually it was the language of sound, the language of vibration,
yeah,
that 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 resonated through your body, and it was one that you could understand and made sense of how you were feeling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's that ability to use music to convey a picture or an emotion, a feeling, without words. And yeah, so and just to feel, yeah, encouraging the feeling of sound.
Yeah. So really, you were born to do this work, and I'm hearing that music's had such a an important impact on you since you were born, and I'm hearing that it's part of your family as well, that dad, granddad, you
Mhm.
know, I imagine many more within your family just had a love for music and shared that with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My granny was also well known as a pub singer as well.
I wish. So she was using her voice while the gentleman was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so it was interesting just to kind of search within myself where that actually came from. Um, and I would say though in later years, when I started to struggle with things in particular, anxiety and depression kind of took me into yoga, which kind of led me into meditation, which kind of led me into energy healing. And it's been I can track the progress of it, from the yoga through meditation, through energy, through shamanic practice, and onto sound healing. And now I just feel it's amazing that I can now offer a blended approach to all of these things. And that's why I've recently kind of been thinking of myself now as a shamanic sound and energy healer because it encapsulates the three main healing modalities that I'm trained in. And it brings such a wonderful package, a wonderful kind of toolkit for people when they come to me, either
Mhm.
for one to one or in a group setting.
Absolutely. Gosh, what a sounds like a real journey of reclamation, you know, that the dissonance, I suppose, of the anxiety
Hmm.
that led you to discover yoga and then to develop that
Yeah,
towards the sound, the energy, the shamanic work that you do. And I'm hearing that you've integrated all of that so that you can offer this sort of holistic healing to other people that you work with individually and in
yeah,
groups.
exactly, exactly. And so it's I can look back now on difficult things in my life where I was struggling, and see kind of a higher purpose for it, because it means I can authentically work with people because I understand um, what it is to be kind of in suffering, and to
Yeah.
I've developed my own toolkit, and that works with other people as well. So it feels like a huge privilege to actually be able to do this now, and it all makes sense now. But it's taken me a while to get there.
Yeah, I imagine that it took trust in your own process, and I guess what I'm hearing is how solid you are as a support and practitioner to others because of that deep embodied knowing of what it is to suffer, of
Yeah.
what it is to feel out of sync with
Hmm.
yourself, with the world around you.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a better person actually to accompany someone on their dis- on their journey back to health and well-being, with
Yeah.
someone who knows how to descend into those darker places and knows how to come back out of it.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think it gives me, a degree of authenticity. Yeah, because I've been there. Um, and as I say, developed, you know, sound practices and toolkits that work.
Absolutely. And, you know, I imagine for people that might be tuning in and hearing you, Ali, for the first time, that, I mean, speaking for myself, I feel your authenticity. I feel your vibration and the way that you're speaking and the way that you are vocalizing your embodiment. It it resonates as truth and it resonates as authentic and it inspires a trust in me. And I imagine that's true for everybody else who's listening.
I hope so.
Well, I imagine that the voice perhaps is one of the tools that you work with, and and
Mm,
and so much we carry, you know, our inner selves through our voice and through those vibrations. And
mhm. Well, it's good that you brought up the voice. She says croaking, because actually, the human voice is actually the most powerful healing tool that we have for ourselves. The vibration that we can create either by simple humming or chanting mantras. Um, it really is incredible that we can send these vibrations throughout our body and heal ourselves through our own sound, our NAD, our own internal sound current.
Wow.
Um, it's so powerful, and um, yeah, I wish more people. Um, well, I hope more people get to know about that because our voice is there, um, and the throat. Working around the throat chakra is where quite a lot of my work is because people are stuck,
Yeah.
um, not being able to express. Maybe, for example, they were told to be quiet as a child, and so they struggle to express themselves. They don't feel safe to express themselves. So, a lot of work with my one-to-one clients is around the throat chakra to help to remove emotional blockages that are there, and that can be very freeing to actually clear that.
Yeah, I imagine so, and I'm sure that resonates with many people, the sense that, fear of taking up space with our voices, fear of expressing ourselves through words or breath or
Mm,
sound and singing because of the rules that were imposed upon us, or the judgment, the value judgments that were placed upon the sounds that we make.
mhm,
So, and yeah, I imagine that is a huge part of your work. I certainly know it's a huge part of my therapy work as well.
mhm,
So, for people that are listening that maybe are identifying with something that you're saying, is there something simple that they could maybe do in the privacy of their own home or in the shower, or something that they could do to maybe begin to loosen up and unblock the throat chakra and give voice really to what's inside?
mhm. Well, just on a simple level, just sing. Put on some of your favorite songs that you like to sing, and just, while you're going around hoovering or washing the dishes,
Hmm. Yeah.
sing at the top of your voice. Sing in an uninhibited way. Sing like no one's listening, basically. Um, and more precisely, humming. There's a really good book by Jonathan Goldman, actually, who's a world's leading sound healer. He has a book that is called Humming, and he has particular exercises um, that you can do with your voice.
Okay.
And there is also, as part of Chinese medicine as well, to use sound and the sound current.
Hmm.
Um, we can all learn that for ourselves, or chanting a mantra. Mantra is a very, very powerful healing tool, both because of the words, the sound, and the vibration it creates. So, yeah, explore some mantras and find a nice, simple mantra. There's lots of beautiful mantras around.
Yeah. And would you recommend that people look for someone else's, or is it some would you recommend to a client perhaps that they maybe create a mantra of their own?
Indeed, yeah. So there's kind of a correlation between affirmations and mantras, isn't there? A mantra is a set of repeated words similar to an affirmation. So you can personalize it absolutely. Even just a simple thing of putting your hands on your heart and just saying, "I am calm, I am peaceful." I am calm, I am peaceful. Very, very simple indeed.
Yeah, simple but really
Effective.
effective. Yeah, yeah. And um when I'm working with clients that I find it difficult to make sound, sometimes I invite them maybe to imagine that they're saying something, but they don't say
Mhm.
it out loud. And then the
Yeah.
next step is to whisper it. And then the next step is to say it and then to
Yeah.
sound it. So I know that there's like a really gentle way to support people in because we can really be so, like you say, blocked and inhibited.
Mm, mhm. And
So
sometimes, yeah, sorry.
no, no, come in, please.
Sometimes in my yoga class, I use sound, and I invite people. to make a big sound in order to release tension and stress. And so, just even making a ha sound, or sometimes we have a kind of mini tantrum where
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
using the vibration of stamping their feet or clapping their hands and making that big sound. The is very healthy in terms of releasing pent up feelings and emotions, and just
yeah.
giving people permission. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Sounds like great fun as well. So it feels like
Yeah,
there's something, like you say, really powerful, but also the element of play that's really important in this as well,
so
isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Had a big smile on my face at the idea of being part of a really large, sort of vibrating tantrum. I don't think I do that enough in my own life.
Well, yeah, it's very therapeutic, and it's actually, I first came across this in a yoga training manual, actually, and I thought, what? But actually, it makes perfect sense. It's such a release, and it's why children do it, isn't it? It's because it's a release for them, big feelings that are overwhelming,
Yeah,
and so giving yourself permission to have that tantrum
yeah,
is very healing. Yeah, because we stuff things down, don't we, all the time, and that's something perhaps that we learned as a child. Again, going back to this, not allowed to say, or not being taken seriously, or not being noticed. These kind of inner child woundings that need to come out. And you mentioned play, and that's really important way of connecting to our inner child that maybe didn't get the love it needed. Um, so yeah, lots of different ways to heal ourselves, indeed.
and I'm hearing that you're how beautifully you're interweaving them to foster this intimate connection with ourselves again,
Mhm.
and the power of being able to do that as part of a group as well. To have a community of sort of that are willing to sound and stamp their feet together, and
Yeah.
to break the
Well,
taboo of having to do this also in private as if there's something to hide about it.
yeah, for sure. And the group, in a group is a different experience, because each person holds the group space, and it's
Yeah.
create a safe feeling where there's no judgment. There's just love and support in the room, and feeding in and tapping into the group energy is really important, very powerful as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I would love to come along to one of your group sessions. Sound amazing.
I'd love to have you there.
We'll have to make sure that happens. So I'm curious about what else sort of is part of the sound healing. You know, talk us through what sound healing is for you and what it looks and sounds like.
Yeah. So in preparation for this evening, I was thinking about the history of sound healing, because actually sound healing is in a very unique place now, because it is both an ancient healing modality, but it's also now increasingly becoming the medicine of the future.
Mhm,
So I would just like to take you back for a moment to ancient Greece, to Crete, in fact, and Pythagoras. Now, most of us think of Pythagoras as a mathematician, and gave us, I'll not go, maths is not my forte, but something to do with triangles and hypotenuses and things. But it's a lesser known fact that he's kind of regarded as the father of sound healing. And he invented a musical instrument known as the monochord, which is a stringed instrument. And he began to draw together the correlation between mathematics and music, and how sound, and in particular creating intervals, that's the space between one note and another, and
mhm,
how that fostered healing. Um, and a good example of that is an interval known as the perfect fifth, um, where we take the note C, which I'll just play for you here. and the note G, which creates a perfect fifth, and it's a natural stress reliever, and helps relieve depression and restores balance and equilibrium. And so we can do that with tuning forks, as well as bowls. And so that's the gift that Pythagoras, gave us. But
Oh.
he's also building on what the Egyptians had started. They used sound healing in their temples as well. And just to give you a little taster, this is I'm holding my sistrum, which is an Egyptian percussion instrument, and we can use it as a rattle to clear space in a room or clear energy around a body. But we can also, if you just listen for a second, it's quite hypnotic and it helps people to go deep into their relaxation. So I feel quite privileged. I mean, obviously, this this didn't come from ancient Egypt, but it's based on an original system, um, and it feels good to have that connection, with Egypt. And in fact, some people say that the pyramids, and there's pyramids all over the world, that are considered to be sound healing chambers because
Hmm.
of the energy and the vibration. I'm thinking of the Bosnian pyramids, for example. Um, they hold, a particular energy and vibration. And we can also fast forward that, to the modern day, where scientists are now gathering empirical evidence to kind of prove, as it were, what the ancients already knew, um, in terms of how certain harmonics, certain frequencies, they can actually destroy cancer cells and viruses. And that's hugely exciting, to see how that's going to develop, to take away the need for invasive procedures and actually use sound and vibration to heal the body. So that's hugely exciting.
Really is. Thank you so much for taking us back in time there and for allowing us to get a sense of the circularity of time space here, that we're harnessing the ancient wisdoms and practices of sound healing with modern contemporary living,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that the ancient worlds knew and understood the language of vibration and resonance,
Yes.
and how with the right tools, with the right conditions, that the body can repair itself and come back into resonance through sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a good example of that here. I have a tuning fork which is placed in a sounding box to amplify the sound. And this tuning fork is 528 hertz. Now, I'll not get too technical, but hertz just means the kind of frequency and how fast, the sound is traveling and vibrating.
Hmm.
528 hertz is kind of it really connects into the human heart, and so it's also known as the miracle frequency. So I would just like to, if that's okay, just let you hear
Yeah,
it.
please. Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Yes. Yes.
And so what this does, when you bring a sound or vibration towards the body being out of whack, due to stress or overwork, the sound, the vibration brings it back from what we call dissonance, which is chaos, into resonance, which is harmony and balance. And tuning forks and any of the sound healing tools will do that. It's bringing us back into harmony and balance and
Yeah.
out of chaos. Yeah.
Beautiful. And the sound, I mean, even over the phone remotely, I could feel the sound moving through my body and
Yeah.
shifting my state. And yeah, it was really, really powerful. So I really thank you for being able to bring the sounds, what you're speaking about, to life, and even through technology, the healing properties can be felt and experienced.
Absolutely. And so it's this is why we're able to do distance healing. We can send healing anywhere in the world, whether it's energy healing or sound healing, because it travels. Everything is connected through the
Mhm,
ether, and it's like, the ether is like an information highway. It's kind of like I think of it as the air equivalent to the mycelium network under the ground. It's an
mm,
information way, and we're all connected. Every single person is connected. We're connected to the earth. We're connected to the planets. We are all one, and so even though someone is not in the same room, um, they will receive the vibration anywhere in the world, whether it's sound or energy. In fact, I remember reading they did an experiment once to demonstrate this, where they took two electrons from a molecule and they separated them and took one to the opposite side of the world.
mhm,
And when you tweak one, the other responds, even although it's thousands of miles away. So it's
yes,
it's a good demonstration of how we're all connected and how that energy and that sound can travel.
absolutely. And I guess what I'm hearing you also describe is that if you're doing the work that you're doing right now by chiming some sounds for us, that energetically and vibrationally, that they can be felt below the radar, perhaps
Hmm.
hundreds, millions of miles away at the other side of the world, that the vibrations that you create are helping to heal the cosmological vibration.
Sure. And also, so the thing with the sound healing is the aspect of intention, and so they say that uh, energy, sorry, sound plus intention equals healing. So if your intention is to send healing to a troubled part of the world, then it will go. And that's why we have quite often you'll see group world meditations as a group.
Mhm.
They say there's so many thousands of people meditate at the same time or recite mantras at the same time. It can actually shift things on a global scale.
Yeah,
So that's hugely exciting and interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, I guess it's something I'd always known, but I'd never
Hmm.
thought of it that way. And just that really simple equation of sound plus intention equals healing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So can I ask then, so before you use one of your instruments, do you hold a conscious intention before you maybe use a mallet or use your tuning fork?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really important before beginning a session, we have to keep our spiritual tools clean, don't we? So
Mm,
everything is saged. So we use sage to smudge to create sacred smoke to cleanse things because they can hold vibration, especially if I have one client in the morning and another client in the afternoon. So
mhm,
it's important to cleanse the space and cleanse the tools, and just open the space. So even working one to one or in a group sound healing, I will always take a few moments at the start to open space, and I do that shamanically. I open the directions of the medicine wheel. I call in spirit guides and call in the angels to protect the space and declare the space safe. um, and I think it's really important um, to do that when you're working with energy, um, to create a safe space for everyone that's been cleansed. Um,
yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there's something really important about those rituals and those intentions, like you
Exactly.
say, that help to energetically hold the space with you, that you're in cooperation with them.
Yeah, yeah, and just to call in our guides for support and intend, even in a group session, I will call them in and set the intention that everyone in the room receives the healing that they most need. Which is why I call my sessions sound healing sessions. I don't call my sessions sound baths, um, because I feel like I bring that extra element into the group with the intention of healing for each individual in the room.
Yeah, yeah. And so before a sound healing, do you know what you're going to do? Do you have a plan, or is this something that's spontaneous and responsive to what you're picking up on in sessions?
It's kind of a mixture of both.
Or
I don't plan it precisely, as in play this bowl, then play that bowl. But I do generally have themes. And so, like the session I did last Friday had the theme of the elements, because I have three new frequency tubes, if you just want to hear.
I'd love to.
And these three tubes represent the vibration of water, earth, and fire. And so I had a kind of a loose plan around the elements, and bringing in, using my rain stick, and my thunder drum to create a kind of storm effect with water and sound, um, and to use my ocean drum to create the sound of the waves. Um, but there has been times where I've gone in with a kind of plan, and abandoned it, and just gone completely uh, off the cuff kind of thing, just allowing myself to be guided. So it's kind of a
Yes,
mixture, and that, the more I'm doing them, the less I need to plan, because I'm just working intuitively most of the
yes,
time now. Yeah.
yeah. So
So
I'm hearing that your presence is harmonic, that you are in harmony with what's happening, and being deeply responsive to what you're picking up on.
and sometimes, yeah, it's working with the energies of the moon as well, is a very powerful thing to do. I think it's important to kind of root into these the seasons, and into what's happening with the planets and the stars.
Hmm.
Astrologically, because we're not separated from that either.
No,
And so I do try and work in harmony with nature, and bring that in to the group sessions. Yeah.
beautiful. I think that's so important, especially with the sort of hectic, chaotic lives that we lead. I know for myself how deeply attuned I am to the moon, and how easily I can fall asleep to myself and forget until I'm in a space and someone reminds me.
Hmm.
So it sounds like what you're doing is actually fostering a sense of belonging, where you're supporting people to consciously reconnect with the elements and the essence of the cosmos that we're all a part of.
Exactly. It's so important, and it's a shame that, in so many ways, that connection to spirit and to nature has been severed.
Yeah.
And so the work now is for everyone to reestablish that connection with nature. I think that's so important, and in fact, it's a very important part of hauling us out the kind of
Mm.
chaos that we're currently in, because we're connecting back to what's actually important. And it's not important really, to be spending a sunny day going around the retail park buying stuff. What's actually important for our mind, body, and soul is to be up a hill somewhere, or in a forest, connecting with the trees and the birds. I feel that would be a healthier option, than buying
Yeah.
stuff we really need.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what you're speaking about is sort of like chasing those quick sort of dopamine hits to
Hmm.
have a temporary moment of perhaps a false resonance, a false harmony, when
Hmm.
in fact we've got this glorious world right outside our doorstep.
Yeah. Yep. And people feel it. They even, do people have different layers of consciousness about how it feels to be in the forest, but somehow people just know it's a great experience, or they just know that listening to a piece of music makes them feel better. Um, it's innate within us, isn't it? And it's a travesty that that connection has been so severed. But with the way things are going now, we're witnessing a massive call back to that, and that's hugely exciting to be part of that, as we continue to raise our vibration along with the planet.
Absolutely. And you really are an important part of that pathway back to healing and wholeness.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
really I'm really struck by the depth of knowing and knowledge that you hold. I find it's just really inspiring and impressive to hear you speak so knowledgeably about your healing work.
It's definitely a spiritual. There's a big spiritual element to my work, because that's been my path and that's been my savior, um, and so I do bring that in, to the group Sound Healings, for sure. And I think it's interesting for people as well, to hear these different things, and to experience a little bit of ritual or ceremony,
Yes.
and to kind of explore something that's out of the norm, perhaps, for
Yeah.
their experience,
Yeah.
um, to realize that there is more to life than being on that dreaded hamster wheel, where I've also been on that dreaded hamster wheel, where you're thinking there has to be more to life than this, than getting up, going to work, coming home, having some food, having a glass of wine, and collapsing in your bed just to get up and go and do it all again.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
to let people know that there is doesn't have to be this way. There is another way.
Ab
Um,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's opening up. People are opening up more and more to that idea now.
Yes, yeah, you're right. There's something about coming back to the magic, isn't there?
Yeah. Yep. And I say that about sound healing. Sound healing is 90% magic.
So I'm curious about the name Rainbow Warrior. Do
Mhm.
you I mean, I've never asked you in person either, but I'm curious about what inspired the name, and is that part of the magic? Um,
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the first time I ever heard the name, was way back in the day, where Greenpeace had a vessel out at sea, that was championing all sorts of environmental causes, and it was called the Rainbow Warrior, and I just loved that name. But there is a bit of magic here, because I feel like I was gifted that name in some way, but it also ties in with the rainbow. When you think of the images of the chakras, they're normally set out as these coloured discs, aren't they? With the
yes.
same colours as the colours you find in the rainbow. And so, as I was working with the energy, and in particular the chakras, and understanding all about that, and just I'm a very colorful person. The way that I dress, people know me for being colorfully dressed, and I don't have anything in beige in my wardrobe. And so it was just a whole blend of these things, of the color and the energy, and um but here's the interesting piece. I started calling myself that, and that became my kind of spiritual name, my business name. And it was only after that, some years later, I came across the legend of the Rainbow Warrior, which was um, from the Hopi tribe in America. They
Mhm.
actually um, a kind of legend, as it were, of the Rainbow Warrior, where the peoples of the world will unite. All the colours of the people of the world will unite to get back to what we were talking about earlier, a more holistic and healthy world, and people will unite, and the Rainbow Warriors will lead the way. And
Mm,
so it was really interesting to hear that because I'd never heard of it when I kind of adopted that name. That just came later. So there's a bit
Yeah,
of mystery and magic and a bit of kind of spirit intervention there, I think.
absolute real synchronicity there.
Sure.
What a
Yeah.
beautiful story
Yeah.
that your name comes from.
Hmm.
That wow,
It
that's really
feels like a gift. Yeah.
yeah. You're certainly on the path that you were meant to be on, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Took me a long time to get there, but I got there eventually.
I think that's true for so many of us that
Mm.
it comes to us a bit later in life when we're able to start integrating.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big part. That's an important word actually, because we can do lots of different trainings, we can do lots of different healings, but if we don't integrate, then it's not going to work so well. And so integration is a huge part of it for
Yeah.
sure. We embed the learning, or we embed the healing.
Yes.
And
Well, to allow the body to really metabolize and digest it so
I,
that it becomes part of us.
yeah, and that's where rest comes in. We this is a big problem at the moment as well, is that people don't have enough time to rest,
No.
um, and so we would do well to kind of adopt the kind of siesta kind of um, culture where we actually
Mhm.
were allowed to take a break in our busy day. I mean, I remember myself working in the civil service, having lunch at my desk and still working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many people do that because of the pressure of to work faster and to work harder and to be more productive.
Yes.
And a lot of stress is coming because we don't have enough rest time, because that's the rest we need, that for the body to heal, to take a break, and to integrate. And so yeah, we really do need to try and find space for more rest for sure.
Absolutely. You're preaching to the converted. Being of Greek origin, I'm a big fan of an afternoon siesta. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I've always made time for it. But I also know what it's like to not gift myself the time to
yeah,
sit down away from a desk and eat something that's nutritious. And and so I'm imagining that in a busy person's life, that attending something like a sound healing that you offer is a time and space for rest
yeah,
to be experienced, a rest and integration.
yeah. I mean, quite often when people come here for a one-to-one, a lot of people fall asleep because they're so exhausted. I've noticed that because they're not having enough time to themselves. That they're working or with the children or tending to the house or bills, um, and so people are usually out pretty quick. And that's not to say that the session is wasted, because of course
No,
the sound and the energy healing is absorbed anyway. Um, and the unconscious
absolutely.
mind, then the work takes place in the unconscious mind, which is really where all the healing
Hmm.
needs to take place. Is that part that we're perhaps not aware of, but keeps kind of showing up when we're triggered, or when we lash out at people or struggle with things and don't really know why. Is because there's something in the unconscious mind that's not been felt or seen. and
Hmm.
um, and so sound is a great way for bringing these things to the surface, whether it's a physical trauma or stuck in the mind. um we can think of these things as energy that needs to move,
Hmm.
and the sound can penetrate right into the cellular and DNA level. We can even clear ancestral trauma in the DNA with sound.
Yeah,
um, and so it just needs rest and time to actually devote to ourselves, to get in there, to go into that deeper level. And that's
Absolutely.
not to say that every session is on that deeper level. You know, some people just need to, that all they need actually is just a rest, and lying down for an hour. But quite often people require something a bit deeper. And I can tailor sessions accordingly to what they most need. Um, so there
Yeah.
is that. There's a general aspect here, general healing, general rest, but there's also a specific um, task at hand to heal something specific.
Yeah, beautiful. And I guess, for my language of inner dance, that we're working with the circadian rhythms, our internal clock, and that really that it's in the dream state or that blended consciousness where we self heal. And I'm hearing you describe it in your own words that through the sound and vibration, you're supporting people into a state of innate healing,
Yeah,
which is beyond ordinary consciousness.
yeah,
Yeah. So even though they might be, and I'm doing this sort of in quotes, asleep, they're actually in a deep state of self-healing, and they're
yeah,
being held tenderly by the sounds and the vibrations.
yeah. And in particular, the drum is very good for that, because the drum very quickly takes someone into that theta state, which is
Yeah.
kind of space in between sleep and awake, where the conscious mind quietens down so that the unconscious mind can be heard, and it's altering the brain waves to allow that healing to take place in that kind of trance-like state.
Yeah. So it's the drums like sort of the pulse of the earth, isn't it? Sort of the
Ab-
earth's heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. And the drum, the vibration and the constant rhythm is such a powerful healing tool for shifting. Um, I can play the drum very loudly over someone in order
Mm-hmm.
to them to release something that's stuck. One of my favorite things to do is take people on a shamanic drum journey, um, where we can go anywhere in the imagination in a shamanic drum journey. In a fun way, we can visit a magical forest, we can climb a mountain or fly to the moon. It's very relaxing and fun on that level, but it can also be used for deeper healing. For example, letting go of grief or fear or past hurts by creating a kind of narrative, a landscape, or a scenario in which it's safe to actually explore these deeper held things. Um, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to create a landscape for someone
Mm-hmm.
in which to do that healing, um, or just fly to the moon.
Absolutely. And
And
I'm also reminded of the womb. I'm sure I was reading somewhere the other day that sound is the first sense really that comes online, as they say, in the womb. And with the idea of the sort of the rhythmic harmonic drum beat, the hypnotic drum beat, I'm
mhm,
just reminded of a deep return to somewhere very, safe
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And it's the last of our senses to go when someone passes over. The hearing, I
Yeah.
believe, don't quote me on that, but I believe it's the last one to go as well. And that this brings up the an interesting thing around the mantra Om. Um, it's considered the first vibration, the creative force that brought things into life. And so there is an interesting thing there about how sound is part of the creation process, sound and light.
Yes.
Um, and so these are, two of the most powerful forces that we have is sound, light, and I think the third one is magnetism. Um,
Hmm.
so these bringing these things together is very powerful for sure.
Wow. And you mentioned, oh, God, I lost my thread there. You mentioned something about something being your favorite, but it's completely gone now. But I was curious, just to sort of shift the conversation because we're coming to the sort of last segment. Do you
Okay.
have do you have a favorite instrument? Is there a sound bowl or a tuning fork or the drum? It was the drum you said that you loved in the drumming.
Yeah. It's difficult to choose, but yeah, I would have to say my drum. I feel a deep connection with my drum, and I don't really know why. It's inexplicable. Um, and no one's ever taught me how to play the drum, but just somehow I've, it's like the drum has taught me how to play and how to explore the
Yeah,
different sounds that I can make and the different um, vibrations I can create by hitting here or hitting there,
yeah,
uh, and blending, toning. I love to tone, make the toning sounds with the drum, and that together is a very powerful experience for the recipient, um, as well. So yeah,
yeah.
if I had to choose, it would be the drum, but it would be difficult to choose.
Sure, sure. No, totally understand that. But what you're saying really resonates with me. I've got a drum and I've got some sound bowls as well. But my sense is that they're speaking to me and they're teaching me about how they want to be known.
Yeah.
And there's something definitely relational about it. And I've noticed that depending on perhaps the person I'm working with or my own state, if I'm working with a sound bowl, depends on how I need to work with it in that moment. Like I notice, for example, when if I'm feeling rather blocked around my solar plexus, if I go to my solar plexus bowl, I have to
Hmm.
got to really kind of push it for any sound to come out.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if I'm really sort of open with my crown, I just have to look at it and it's already singing at me.
Yeah.
Is that a phenomena that you've come across yourself, that there's the sort of relational element to your instruments and
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes you can pick up a bowl and think, this sounds different today for some reason, because
yeah,
if you're holding it or you're playing it on the body, then it's there's a different aspect comes in there, in terms of how the sound and the vibration comes out. Um, and it's interesting that you see people buying a bowl. I always say
hmm
to people, you have to pick it up and play it. Um, but it's a funny thing, and it's a strange thing that some people can hold a bowl and it won't play for them,
hmm
and yet someone else can pick up the same bowl and it'll play for them. So there is definitely a relationship there for sure.
yeah, fascinating phenomena,
Yeah, that's the kind of magical aspect of it as well.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and
mystery.
and even the spaces we inhabit and the other bodies that are in the room. For example, I work with soundscapes and I play it maybe 2 or 3 times, and depending on who's in the room and what space I'm in, it sounds completely different every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm always like in awe of, did I make that? That I don't remember it sounding like that last night. And
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
that's why it's helpful if we can, in this kind of practice, if we can read the room, as it were.
yes,
And
yeah,
sometimes we have to adapt to what's in front of us, and it's good if we've got the skills to do that, and just work intuitively according to who's in front of you.
yeah, absolutely. Wow, gosh. Ali, thank you so much. It's just such an amazing conversation. I feel like I've learned so much in the last 50 minutes.
No,
And
thank
and
you.
I'm sad that we're going to have to come to an end in a little bit because I've just got so many more questions for you. But as we've been doing in previous shows, just creating a little ritual of our own about asking guests to share a book that you might have read in your life that you could recommend to us listeners.
So I kind of hesitated over this book, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because it had such a huge impact on my young teenage life, and it's so relevant for now. And that is 1984. by George Orwell, which we kind of briefly chatted about. So I know that you're also familiar
Yes.
um, with the book. And when I think back, I was really surprised that they actually gave us this to read in school,
Hmm.
um, which I'm quite sure would not happen now. And it impacted me hugely because it made me wonder actually if perhaps the world wasn't what I thought it was or what I'd been led to believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me start to question everything. Um, there's so many layers and levels to this book, you know. It could, I guess it could be read as a just an interesting tale, um but there is a lot of depth in this book. And I remember also being struck by the kind of beautiful love story between Winston and Julia, who kind of find solace in each other, in a pretty horrible grim existence. They managed to create a wee love nest above a shop, away from the control and the kind of day-to-day existence. Unfortunately, the whole thing was being recorded, and it's such a shock, you know, that moment where the
Mm-hmm.
television falls off the wall and you think, oh no. But also, I was struck by the kind of Winston, when he first discovers the proles, you know, the kind of the shortened
Mm-hmm.
version of proletariat,
Yeah.
and you could see where Orwell's getting his language from. But he realised that, oh my God, there's like all these people actually are free. You know, he hears the women out in the back garden hanging out the washing, and he's like, well, they're not part of our party system. And he realizes these people are free, and that they're living ordinary human lives. Um, and he says, if there is hope, it lies with the proles. And I think he's meaning there, A, because they're massive in number, and you know, would be able to lead any kind of revolution. But also, I think be, be, because they are free, um, and just shows that another way of life is possible. And I always, whenever I think of that quote, I kind of I tie this in with the indigenous cultures of the world as they are now. And I think if there is hope for us, it lies with the indigenous, because of their connection to nature and spirit. And I think we have much to learn. So I kind of use that phrase, but instead I think to myself, if there is hope, that it lies with the indigenous. And so yeah, it's a powerful book, and very, you know, without going into it too much, very relevant for the now. Um, in terms of seeing perhaps that all isn't as we think it as we think it is, and that another way is possible.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Thank you for bringing it in, and for those wise words of yours. You know, and I'm curious if you've got any words of wisdom that you came across along your own journey that you might want to share with us listeners.
I think the biggest, or one of the biggest lessons I've learned is about love,
Yeah.
um, and that, you know, but it goes way beyond romantic, the notion of romantic love, and hearts and flowers, to actually, you know, be in your heart, and be in compassion, especially when we're faced with difficult things, or faced with difficult people. It can be really challenging to stay in that place, in that vibration of love. But it's the only way. It's the only way forward, and to remember that love is the highest vibration of all, and um, it's the only thing. It's the only way forward. Really, is
Yes.
to, you know, be in our hearts, drop out of our minds, you know, not make decisions and actions from the head so much, but from the heart, and to bow, you know, bow our heads to the wisdom of the heart.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you, Ali. And just for anyone listening, how might they be able to get hold of you or to find out about the phenomenal sound healing and other healings that you're offering?
Well, through Facebook is probably the easiest way. In the first instance, either contact me on my personal page, Ali Taylor, or through the group, ask to join the group, which is Rainbow Warrior Wellbeing. Or I'm happy to add anyone. I do have a emailing list where I send out an email once a week of events and classes that I'm doing. And so yeah, there's different ways. I'm just happy for anyone to reach out. You know, even just for a chat if they want to go deeper into any of the things that we've discussed this evening. Happy to have a chat.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to take you up on that offer, that's for sure. But I'm wondering, before we finish, would it be possible for you maybe to play another sound for us, just to sort of close out the conversation before we turn the recording off?
Yeah, sure. Will I just kind of play to the end, sort of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, if that feels okay for you.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear that? Okay.
Can you hear that? Yes, yeah. Oh, Ali, thank you so very much. Just letting those vibrations
You're very
also
welcome.
and move through my body. What an absolute pleasure and joy it has been to spend this time with you. I feel cellularly resonant and vibrating at a higher frequency, and just I feel so satisfied. It was just such a thrilling conversation to have with you, with someone who knows so much about sound healing and what you do. It's been a real honor. So
I've
I'm
enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure.
great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish off the recording. So just stay on the line just for a second. I'll finish the recording and then we can talk off the records. Okay.
Okay.
2 seconds. Okay. Well, dear hearts, that was another thrilling installment of the Inner Dance Show. How honoured I am to have spent this time with Ali Taylor, Rainbow Warrior Wellbeing. Next week, we will be having the honour of speaking with Cosmic Inner Dance DJ Serena Olsen, trainer facilitator extraordinaire. Hope to see you then. Until then, much love, dear hearts. Bye bye.